If your emails aren't reaching the customer's inbox, then you have a huge problem. Nobody's seeing your products. This means that customers can't be reminded of your brand or have the chance to buy from you again. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you how to improve your Klaviyo deliverability to keep your list healthy, inbox more emails, and help your customers buy from you more often. Let's start with what deliverability actually is. A lot of people think it's a black box that you can't get into and affect, but deliverability is simply this: having a good enough sender reputation to make sure that your emails land in the customer's inbox. Good deliverability helps you avoid the spam folder, stay out of the promo tab as much as possible, and end up in your customer's inbox so they can see your products more often. There are two big reasons why email deliverability becomes a problem for most brands. The first reason: a dirty email list. As you grow your email list, you will find a percentage of it will be bad email addresses. These can be fake addresses, or they can be addresses that people just don't use anymore. And as you continue to send to these bad addresses, you look bad to ESPs, which means they start filtering you into the promo tab, and even if you send enough, into the spam folder. The second problem is customers stop seeing your emails. If the emails you send end up in the spam folder or even the promo tab, customers won't see them. This leads the customers to not opening, clicking, or even replying to emails. Worst of all, they stop buying from those emails, which means you miss out on sales. This leads ESPs to believe that you do not belong in your customer's inbox. Now that you know what email deliverability is inside of Klaviyo and what the two big reasons are it becomes a problem for brands, I'm going to show you how to keep your list healthy in 5 simple steps. Now, of the 5 ways to keep your list healthy and clean, the first step is to regularly clean your list. Now, what does that actually look like? Well, what you want to do is you want to find and remove your inactive subscribers. Now, what I'm showing here on screen here is the unengaged segment that Klaviyo actually offers as default support ticket or support article. So what I would do is I would start here. I would suggest starting here and building out this segment inside your account, and then use this and modify as needed. So something to keep in mind here. So this unengaged segment is using 90-day intervals. So you see here, subscribed is at least 90 days, when email 0 times in 90, clicked email 0 times in 90 here. So that might be different for your brand. Some brands, I look at the buyer cycle, right? Most supplement companies land between a 20 and maybe a 40-day buying cycle. Every 20 to 40 days, the customer's buying something to replenish or buy something again. So what I would do is take that number, whatever your buying cycle is, and multiply it by 3, 4, even 5 to get your unengaged segment. So if it's a 30-day, a 3 times would be 90, a 4 times would be 120, and so on and so forth. If your buying cycle is 6 months, then what I would do for a disengaged segment is maybe go 6 months out, or maybe even a year out to say they're disengaged, maybe a year and a half. It really just depends on your buying cycle, and it depends on how long you want to give for an email address to actually stay engaged with you before you mark them as inactive and remove them. Now, the second way to keep your email list clean on a regular basis, your existing email list, is to actually move out of Klaviyo and go into a tool like NeverBounce or ZeroBounce and validate your email addresses. So these two tools work essentially the same. And what I'm going to show you is the process inside of NeverBounce, so you know how it works. And I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like when you get that report back. And then what you do is you take that list that you validated and you put it back into Klaviyo and continue sending to it. So from Klaviyo, what you want to do, you want to go to your dashboard, you want to click Lists and Segments, you want to choose the list that you want to export and actually validate and check. Manage List, Export List to CSV. And so that CSV file is what you'll take over to Zero or NeverBounce. You want to add list here. You can click and drag and drop, or if you want to integrate for ongoing, so you can actually integrate this with most email softwares to do ongoing. Anytime somebody joins your list, they validate the email as it goes in. So you can do that. So once you upload that and it runs its report, you'll get something back that looks like this. So hopefully more than 50% of your list is valid, but you'll get a valid, accept all, unknown, disposable, and invalid. We're just looking to see where our emails stand. What NeverBounce does essentially is they send a ping to that email address and see what they get back from the server. That's all we're really doing here. It's not going to affect your deliverability. It's not going to affect your customers. It's not going to affect any of those things. It's really just checking to make sure that the emails you're sending to are actually valid, so that your sender reputation with ESPs like Google, Yahoo, Apple, etc. are actually positive and they stay positive. So you'll get a report back like this. And when you export, you can actually choose export all, you can export valid only, you can check the box on which ones you want to export. You take that list, you come back over here to Klaviyo, list and segment. I would create a new list, create that list, and then you can upload it. You can also do a merge. You can go to this existing list, manage, and you can actually import contacts and re-import them into the list. And that should update your list so that you get the clean validated list back. Now, the second major step to keep your list healthy and clean is on the front end when you're growing it. One thing that a lot of brands miss, or it gets pushed aside because they don't really think about it, is what kind of opt-in you're using. Now, not necessarily the sign-up unit form, but what are you using a single opt-in, or using a single soft, a double hard? What are you using it protecting your list with? So essentially what you want to do, again, if you go into Klaviyo, I'm going to show you how how to do this and where this is at. Go to list and segments. You want to go to the list you actually want to work on that your sign up unit's attached to that you're growing. You want to go to settings, consent, and then here's your opt-in process. So from here, you can choose a single or a double. I highly recommend any ecom brand that's running paid media to do a double opt-in. Paid media and exposure to the market, and people trying to get coupon codes, trying to get access to any kind of email addresses if they're trying to scrape and cold email you. If they're trying to do anything like that, a double opt-in will actually protect you from those things from happening. It won't protect from everything, but it will decrease a high probability of those attempts from actually getting onto your email list. Something else to do too is once you actually select the double opt-in, you want to make sure your confirmation email and your SMS confirmation, if you're using it, is actually set up. Go through your sign up unit. You'll actually get an email saying, hey, can you confirm that you're actually signing up to X list? Please click here to confirm. And you want that email to be on, live, and actually written so that people understand what they're signing up for. That's all that double opt-in is. It keeps the bots out. It keeps fake addresses out. It keeps list scrapers out. It really does protect. It's like a gatekeeper on the front end of your list as you're growing it. All right, so the third major step to keep your list healthy and keep your deliverability positive with ESPs is to segment your list. I'm going to show you 3 unique segments that I think every single brand can use and every single brand should use. Outside of these 3, I think ultimately it's going to be custom to your brand on how you segment your list and how you actually engage and approach your customers in email and SMS to actually get them back to shop and buy things. So ultimately, once you're in Klaviyo, you can go to lists and segments. I've already created the segments here. I'm going to talk through why I would recommend these 3 to every single brand that I work with. So first, we want to split between buyers and non-buyers, okay? So we want to know who's on our list but has not purchased ever over all time. This is primarily because we want to know and see if we can make offers to these people to get them to make their first purchase. And as we're making those offers, we get to see who are here as lurkers just to read and engage and potentially just get information, but also those who are actively adding to cart, actively checking out, and they're just abandoning. We can get those people back into our shopping flows that are optimized to get people to go from shopping to checking out to buying. So that's the first segment, non-buyers. Second segment, buyers. We want to know who has purchased something over all time. These are people who have pulled out their credit card, pulled out their debit card, given you money, and actually purchased and received your product. You can do almost an infinite amount of things with these buyers because you can make them more offers. You can ask them for feedback. You can segment them based on how many number of purchases they've made. You can segment based on the products they have purchased and the ones they haven't. You can look at, one of my favorite ways to look at buyers is what they purchased in the last 30 days and what they could and should buy next based on our recommendation. That's one of my favorite segments to run. So knowing who your buyers are helps you understand what to send them and when to send it. And then the final third segment here is one-time buyers. Now, these one-time buyers is super important because anywhere between 60 and 80% of people who make their first purchase with an ecom brand do not come back for a second purchase. Now, your ecom brand may be awesome and you have a 50% return rate. A lot of brands are sitting between that 70 to maybe even 95% non-return rate, right? So like majority of their buyers who buy once do not come back again. Now, there's 2 reasons why this is important. One, that puts a lot of pressure on your paid media to actually get new customers month over month over month. It feels like riding a roller coaster because you're up and down and you don't know if you're going to get enough customers. And when you do, it's great. But if it's off season or you don't get as many customers as you think you're going to get, it puts a lot of pressure on the bottom line. Second reason, once you know who your one-time buyers are, you can connect with them and engage with them and get them into that second purchase. You can take that 70, 80, 90% non-return rate and turn it into 70, 50, 40, 30% of those people not coming back, and at the rest, 60, 70, 80% of people coming back. You can start working on that huge second purchase. It's huge for your brand. The reason it's huge is you're paying $100 to get a customer, they spend $100, you broke even. If you can get them to make that second purchase, you're $100 up. So knowing who your one-time buyers are and getting into that second, third, fourth purchase is a massive advantage for most brands that they're not taking advantage of. All right, so the next piece I want to show you, the 4th step of keeping your list healthy and clean and keeping your deliverability positive, is what I like to call your 2 engagement flow series. So the first one is your welcome series. The second one is going to be a pair. It's going to be your re-engaging non-customers and re-engaging existing customers. So essentially what that looks like, I'm in a test account here to show you what that looks like. So with flows, you're going to have your customer, non-customer welcome series, and then you're going to have these other flows, your re-engagement flow, and then what a lot of people call it is a win back. So you've probably heard of a welcome series. Essentially, as people sign up to your list, you want to send them a couple emails, either make an offer and deliver that offer to them, or give them a site tour with each email, go through a different category in the main selling product. Or if you want to, you can sell a welcome series and engage people with a single product or a single category and just walk them through that. So it's really up in the air and really custom to your brand and how you want to do this. Some people do a flagship welcome series, which is one product. Some people do a category, some people do a whole site, some people do an offer. It really just depends. So that welcome series is engaging your initial people to come in and engage with your brand through email. So it's super important. Your welcome series is in the top 3 of most highest revenue, and also 2, it sets the first impression. It makes it so that people can come in, experience your brand in their inbox, and then make a decision if they want to stick around, make a purchase, and or stay on your list. So it's a huge flow that you want to make sure that is up and running and optimized for engagement, education, and entertainment for your customers. The second flow is a a non-customer re-engagement. So these are people who have never purchased from you at all ever, but they're on your list and they disengage or unengaged from you, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, this could be at 90 days, this could be at 180, this could be at 6 months. It really just depends on what your buying cycle looks like for your brand. And this can be as simple as putting out 2 to 5 emails to that person or that group or that segment of people. And you can do a variety of different things just to try and get 1 into their inbox, and then 2, get them to actually open and or click on an email to show that they're still engaged and you can bring them back into the fold. So this is for non-customers, and it's only 2 to maybe 5 emails to see if you can re-engage them before they move on to your inactive segment when you actually suppress or even remove them from your account. The final flow here, it's the pair of the non-customer and customer. This is the customer flow. If you have an existing customer who's made a purchase before and it's been, 4 months, 6 months, a year, whatever that time frame may be for you and your brand, what we want to do is, if they haven't purchased after making a purchase in, let's say, 6 months, we want to make them an offer to see if we can get them to come back. This is what people would call a win-back flow. There's various names for it, but essentially that's what you're doing. You're taking an existing customer at the 6-month mark or whatever the time may be, you make them an offer to get them to come back and purchase again because they haven't in that time frame. Now, ideally, people are getting your campaigns, they're going through your shopping flows, they're making purchases every day, hopefully, but if they're making a purchase, let's say once a month, they go 6 months without buying, this is the flow you want to trigger. And essentially what it is it's a 2 to 5, sometimes 7 email flow, and you're essentially trying to re-engage them from a customer standpoint, not a non-buyer, but an actual buyer. And then you're sending a couple emails. You can do discounts, you can do offers, you can do BOGOs, gift cards. You're just trying to get them to pay attention again to see if you can get them to come back and buy from you. Now, something else to note too is this is email. You can layer in direct mail with this, which we do with a lot of clients, is we'll have an email flow that goes out, 3 to 5 emails. And then once that flow's done, we'll actually put a postcard in the mail for our client, and it goes to that customer who is not repurchased because of this flow. So there's a lot of different ways to retarget and re-engage your customers to bring them back to get them to purchase again. All right, so the last and final step, the 5th step to keep your list healthy and keep your deliverability positive, is what's called deliverability metrics. There are 5 metrics. Some of these don't make it on the report. Some of them are pushed down to the bottom of the report. Not a lot of people are looking at these, but most of these metrics, if not all of them, are directly driving revenue. They're the unsung heroes of email, and deliverability is a huge deal because, like we said earlier in the video, if your customers aren't seeing your emails, they're not clicking. If they're not clicking, they're shopping. If they're not shopping, they're not buying. Pretty straightforward. So with these 5, I'm going to talk through what each one is. I'm going to give you a little idea of how to measure or just track and engage with these and make them better. And then overall, I'll show you how to get to this report in Klaviyo at the end. So you've heard of this one. You've probably seen it a lot, your open rate. Typically speaking, try to aim for 20% or above on your open rate on average. With the new sender requirements from Google and Yahoo and those being restricted or restricting, your open rate, that 20% rule, might vary depending on your brand and your reputation. So take that with a grain of salt. It's not a hard and fast rule, but if you're in the teens or right at 20, I would segment your list so you can get above 25, above 30, and higher if you can. Now, when it comes to click rate, we've all seen this, we've all heard of this. It's a huge metric when it comes to engagement and also getting people to your site. Depending on your brand, depending on your product, depending on your list, there's a lot of variables here. Ideally, I like to shoot for 1% on average across the entire account. What we want to shoot for is 3% or above. On flows, if we can get 5, 6, 7, 10%, 15%, whatever that number is, as the higher the click rate, the better in most cases. This is considered an engagement metric, even though it is directly tied to revenue. If we can get more people to the site, more will shop, more will buy. So click rate, how to get that up. Add more CTAs, write your CTAs so they're benefit driven, write CTAs so that they're curiosity driven. So you have to click through to actually get the answer. Do various things to make sure that your CTAs and your click rate actually encourages and benefits and rewards the reader and the customer to actually click through and look at the site or whatever you're leading them to. So that's click rate. Bounce rate, this is if we send an email and it gets kicked back to us. There's a soft and a hard bounce rate. Klaviyo has a rule that if it bounces back, I think it's 2 or 3 times, it'll actually automatically suppress that account. So we stop sending to it. So that's automatically set up. I would just triple check that to make sure that your account has that. But ideally, you want to look at your bounce rate and keep that as low as possible. There really isn't a high end on like what to look for, but if you can keep that low and keep it as low as possible, you're going to have the best time when it comes to actually getting emails and inboxes. One thing I like to do just as a safeguard or a failsafe is to actually segment my list. You segment based on bounce rate. So if they've bounced 3 or more times in the last 90 days and they've received at least 3 emails, what you'll do is you can segment those people out of bouncing 3 times on 3 emails. If they've gotten 4 and bounced 3, they'll stay out. If it 5 and 3, etc. So I especially keep them out so we're not sending to people that we're going to get kickback on. Unsubscribe rate and spam complaint, you've heard before. These you want to keep as low as possible. Unsubscribes are going to happen. You're not going to get this to 0. So if you're on a conquest to get that to 0, I encourage you to just try and keep it below 0.5. If you get to 1%, there's a concern. You might have done a sale or sent too many, or you segmented your list differently and opened up the list more, so more people started seeing those emails. So yeah, just try and keep it below 0.5. Ideally, you want it below 0.3. If you get in the 0.51 range, it's a serious consideration. You need to go figure out why so many people are are subscribing. 1% isn't a huge percentage, but 1% of a million, 1% of, like here, the total recipients here is 62 million. 1% of that's a huge number. So just keep that in mind. You want your subscribe rate as low as possible. Same thing with spam complaint, you want that as low as possible. These are the 5 metrics that basically determine and define your deliverability with ESPs. And you want to make sure you want to keep these bounce, unsubscribe, and spam as low as possible. Your open and click as high as possible. And if you want to find these inside your own Klaviyo account, super easy. Klaviyo made this neat tool. If you go to the dashboard, then go to analytics, open up this menu, and then click on deliverability. You can set your time period, message type, message category, category value, etc. And you can actually look at your own deliverability as it is per Klaviyo. And if you want to see more videos on how to drive revenue and retention for your ecom brand through paid email, SMS, and direct mail, visit our channel, watch some videos, like and subscribe.